Namaste and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Today we would be analyzing the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper of 10th April 2018. Now let us begin.
Now we've taken this article from page 6. Now the reason this article is in the news is because the Prime Minister of India is going to address Swachhagrahis volunteers on the concluding ceremony of the Champaran Satyagraha centenary celebrations. Now the first thing from this article that we're going to understand is what is meant by Swachhagrahi, and then understand about the Champaran Satyagraha from the perspective of your upcoming prelims examination. Now they are ambassadors of cleanliness and motivators to implement community approaches to sanitation, and this is done at the village level. So you understand that Swachhagrahi are ambassadors of cleanliness and motivators to implement community approaches to sanitation at the village level. Now let us understand about the Champaran Satyagraha and first understand as to where it would be placed in your UPSC syllabus. Now with regards to your prelims syllabus, Champaran Satyagraha would be placed in Indian national movement, while with regards to your main syllabus, it would be placed in GS paper 1 under the subsection the freedom struggle. Now let us understand about the Champaran Satyagraha from the perspective of your upcoming prelims examination. Now the Champaran Satyagraha occurred on 10th April 1917. Now the cause of the Champaran Satyagraha was that the Champaran tenant cultivators were bound by law to plant 3 out of every 20 parts with indigo, and this was done for British planters and estate owners, and this system was known as a Tin Kathiya system. And because of this, Mahatma Gandhi was persuaded by Rajkumar Shukla, who was an indigo cultivator, and Mahatma Gandhi agreed to investigate the matter. Now with regards to this investigation by Mahatma Gandhi, a court summon was forwarded against him for a CRPC violation. And with regards to this, Mahatma Gandhi pleaded guilty in the Motihari court. Now due to several reasons, the trial of Mahatma Gandhi in the Motihari court collapsed, and the case was then withdrawn. And after this, Mahatma Gandhi became free to conduct the inquiry or the investigation into the grievances of the Champaran tenant cultivators. Now hopefully up till here you have understood the cause of the Champaran Satyagraha, wherein the Champaran tenant cultivators were bound by law to plant 3 out of every 20 parts of their tenant land with indigo, and this was enforced by the British planters and the estate owners. And this system came to be known as the Tin Kathiya system, and this Tin Kathiya system led to many grievances among the Champaran tenant cultivators. And with regards to this, Mahatma Gandhi was persuaded by Rajkumar Shukla, who was also an indigo cultivator, and upon his persuasion, Mahatma Gandhi agreed to investigate the matter. And during his investigation, Mahatma Gandhi was summoned with regards to a CRPC violation, and for which Mahatma Gandhi pleaded guilty in the court. And afterwards, due to various factors, the trial collapsed and the case against Mahatma Gandhi was withdrawn, and he became free to conduct his inquiry. Now, after the trial phase, Mahatma Gandhi conducted his inquiry, and during this phase, he was also supported by Rajendra Prasad, who later on became the first president of India. A Champaran Inquiry Committee was formed by the Lieutenant Governor of Bihar, and Mahatma Gandhi also became a part of this inquiry committee. And this Champaran Inquiry Committee gave the recommendation of the abolition of the Tin Kathiya system, and this recommendation was also accepted. Now after this recommendation was accepted, it was hugely opposed by the British planters and the estate owners, but nevertheless, it also further led to the Champaran Agrarian Act in Bihar and a similar law in Orissa. However, up till here, with regards to the post-trial period, you have understood that Mahatma Gandhi was allowed to conduct an inquiry with regards to the grievances of the Champaran tenant cultivators. And in this inquiry, Mahatma Gandhi was supported by various people, which included Rajendra Prasad, who became the first president of India. Now, moreover, a Champaran Inquiry Committee was also formed by the Lieutenant Governor of Bihar, in which Mahatma Gandhi also became a member. And this committee recommended the abolition of the Tin Kathiya system. and this recommendation was then accepted. Now, the Champaran Satyagraha became the first objective lesson in civil disobedience. Now, questions on Champaran Satyagraha and on similar Satyagraha have been previously asked in your UPSC prelims examination, wherein a question was asked in the prelims of 2010 on the Champaran Satyagraha and again in the prelims of 2011 on the Kheda Satyagraha. Now, one more aspect that you should understand about the Champaran Satyagraha is that J.P. Kripalani was also one of the supporters during the Champaran Satyagraha. And as you can see from these questions, what they've asked are the cause, specific features with regards to colleagues, role of the government or the administration, and hopefully, with the explanation given in this section, you are able to understand the basic features of the Champaran Satyagraha. And now, with this, we move on to the next article. Now, we have taken this article from page 4 of the Delhi Metro edition of the Hindu newspaper. Now, what this article talks about is that former victims of trafficking have been given training by the National Skill Development Corporation under the Pradhanmantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Now, from this article, what we'll do is understand about the Pradhanmantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana from the perspective of your upcoming prelims examination. Now, the Pradhanmantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana is a flagship scheme of the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Now, the objective of this scheme is to enable a large number of Indian youth to take up industry relevant skill training, which would help them in securing a better livelihood. Now, apart from this, individuals with prior learning experience or skills will also be assessed and certified under the recognition of prior learning. Now, moreover, the focus under the scheme is also on mentorship and placement facilitation. And lastly, this scheme would also focus on the improvement of soft skills such as on personal grooming, behavioral change, good work ethics, among others. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood that the Pradhanmantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana is a flagship scheme of the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Moreover, you also understand the objective of the Pradhanmantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana is that it envisions the enabling of Indian youth with industry relevant skill training. Moreover, individuals with prior learning experience or skill will also be assessed and certified under the recognition of prior learning. Additionally, the scheme also envisions for mentorship support and placement facilitation. And lastly, the scheme would also include soft skills improvement in the form of personal grooming, behavioral change, good work ethics, among other factors. Now, apart from this, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana has been extended for the period 2016 to 2020, and the key pillars under the 2016-2020 framework is the first, standardization of training infrastructure. The second key pillar is developing clear quality benchmarks for training centers. The third key pillar is relentless focus on placements as a measure of final outcome. The fourth and the last key pillar of the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana is the promotion of transparency through an objective and process-based decision-making framework. Now, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana framework of 2016-2020 have suggested several reforms, wherein the first reform measure is of accreditation and affiliation of training centers, wherein there will be a shift in focus from training providers to training centers, and wherein affiliation would be given for approved job roles to training centers. And for accreditation, there is a rating and grading methodology. Now, the second reform measure is of standardization of course content, wherein a model content curriculum would be formed and standardized books and kits would be given. The third reform measure would be of mandatory training of trainers, wherein trainers would have to mandatorily undergo train the trainer program. Now, the fourth reform measure is of unique enrollments and Aadhaar based attendance system, and this is being done to prevent bogus enrollments. Now, the fifth and the last major reform measure under the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana framework of 2016-2020 is that 70% successfully assessed trainees will be provided with wage employment. Now, hopefully, up till here, you've understood the key pillars of the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana framework of 2016-2020. And moreover, you also understand the reform measures that are going to be implemented for the Pradhanmantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Now, a question was asked in your prelims 2017 examination with regards to the recognition of the prior learning scheme, which we had just covered in the previous section, which is specifically asked for its purpose and objective. Now, hopefully, you've also understood the Pradhanmantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana and the various features of the 2016-2020 framework. And so now with this, we move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 7. Now what this article talks about? Now what the article talks about is that the UIDAI has brought in a digitally signed QR code on the E-Aadhaar. And now the E-Aadhaar would also contain the photograph of the Aadhaar card holder. Now this is being done for better offline verification of the Aadhaar card holder. Now with regards to this, what we should understand from the perspective of your upcoming prelims examination is the basic features of E-Aadhaar and also what is a QR code. Now E-Aadhaar is a digitally signed Aadhaar and it has been digitally signed by a competent authority of the UIDAI such as the National Informatics Center. Now all the data printed in E-Aadhaar is the same data as printed in Aadhaar letter. And the QR code given in the E-Aadhaar contains the demographic detail. Now you should remember this fact that it only contains the demographic details and not the biometric detail. And this differentiation becomes important and with regards to a simple distinction that can be asked in your UPSC prelims examination. Now demographic details are name, address, among other things, while the biometric details is the iris scan and the fingerprints, among other. Now apart from this, the E-Aadhaar from now on would also carry the photograph. Now hopefully up till here you have understood the basic features of the E-Aadhaar, that it is a digitally signed Aadhaar copy which has been digitally signed by a competent authority of the UIDAI such as the National Informatics Center, and this E-Aadhaar would have the same data as the hard letter of Aadhaar card. Moreover, E-Aadhaar would also carry a QR code which would contain the demographic details such as name, address, among other, and not the biometric details such as a fingerprint, iris scan, among other. And moreover, the E-Aadhaar would also carry the photograph of the Aadhaar card holder, which has been done for improving offline verification of holder. Now let us understand about the QR code. Now you may have seen QR codes whose full form is the quick response code and is a form of a matrix barcode or a two-dimensional barcode. Now QR code is a machine-readable optical label and contains information of generally the item to which it is attached. Now it has become very popular due to its fast readability and greater storage capacity as compared to standard barcodes. Now hopefully up till here you have a conceptual understanding of a QR code whose full form is the quick response code, which is a matrix and a 2D barcode. And moreover, it is also a machine-readable optical label wherein it can be read by machines such as smartphones among others. And the quick response code has become very popular due to its fast readability and greater storage capacity as compared to the standard barcode. Apart from this, you should also understand of various examples of QR code being used by the Government of India, such as the Bharat QR code, the Bhim QR code, wherein both Bharat QR code and Bhim QR code are digital payment acceptance solution. And similarly, QR codes have also been in the news with regards to their usage in CBSE examination, NCERT books, among other. Now hopefully, up till here you have understood about E-Aadhaar and the QR code. And so with this, we move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 7. Now what this article talks about is that the Central Vigilance Commission has seen a dramatic drop in the total number of complaints received by it in 2017. Now one of the possible reasons that there has been a general public disenchantment with the anti-corruption mechanisms of the various investigative agencies, wherein about only 30% of the investigations by CBI has resulted in criminal proceedings. And moreover, the Central Vigilance Commission has observed that during the year 2017, there were some significant deviations from the advice of the Commission with regards to the procedure of investigations followed by several ministries. Now hopefully you have understood as to why it is in the news. Now the Central Vigilance Commission has been covered in the DNS of 2nd April 2018 from the perspective of your upcoming prelims examination, and you can refer to that video to further understand about the Central Vigilance Commission. And so with this, we move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 9. Now what this article talks about is specifically of Form 27 of the Patents Rule of 2003 and relates it with specifically to the pharmaceutical industry and the requirement for protection of public health. Now this editorial is important with regards to your UPSC mains examination in GS paper 3, more specifically in issues relating to intellectual property rights, wherein previously a question has been asked in the GS paper 3 of 2013 mains examination with specifically to the section 3D of the Indian Patent Law of 1970 with regards to pharmaceutical industry. And similarly, this article also talks about Form 27 of the Patent Rules of 2003 with regards to the pharmaceutical industry. So now let us understand the focus and the crux of this article. Now patents are granted in India to encourage inventions and to secure that the inventions are worked in India on a commercial scale under the Indian Patent Act of 1970. And patents are therefore not granted merely to enable patentees, which have taken the patent, to enjoy a monopoly for the importation of the patented products. And therefore, the Government of India can take adequate measures to ensure that the patentee or the person or the company who has taken the patent does not unreasonably restrain trade or the transfer and use of the patented technology. So, with regards to this, Form 27 under the Patent Rules of 2003, every patentee and every license of a granted patent is required to file a statement under Form 27 of the Patent Rules of 2003, and the statement is to be filed to the extent to which the patented invention has been worked on in a commercial scale in India. And this complete disclosure of patents is therefore necessary to enjoy the benefits granted by the patent. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood that patents are granted in India to encourage inventions and to secure that the inventions are worked in India on a commercial scale under the Indian Patents Act of 1970. And patents are therefore not granted merely to enable patentees to enjoy a monopoly for the import of the patented products. Now, let's say a company A has patented a drug called B2 in India, and under the Indian Patents Act of 1970, the company or the person A should be working on making sure that the drug B2 is also available on a commercial scale in India. The company A does not work on the commercial availability of the B2 drug in India, and what it does, imports the life-saving drug from outside. And because this company A enjoys a monopoly through a patent on the product B2, other companies, especially Indian companies, are not able to make this drug commercially viable in India. And therefore, what the article is focusing upon is that patents are not granted merely to enable any company or a person in form of a patentee to enjoy a monopoly for the importation of the patented product. And therefore, the Government of India should take measures to ensure that patentees do not unreasonably restrain trade and transfer or the use of the patented technology. And moreover, the article suggests that Form 27 under the Patent Rules of 2003, every patentee and every licensee of a granted patent is required to file a statement in which they have to show to which extent the patented product or invention has been worked upon on a commercial scale in India. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have gotten the crux and the focus of this article, and wherein the analogy of A and B2 should be taken as an example for an easy understanding of the crux of this article. Now, moreover, the author has raised certain drawbacks with regards to Form 27, wherein it does not cover all grounds adequately, and has suggested that stringent norms for disclosure under Form 27 be added to ensure complete disclosure. Now, moreover, the author has suggested that in cases of abuse of a patent in the form of importation of the patented product, the Section 84 of the Indian Patents Act of 1970 provides for compulsory licensing, wherein under compulsory licensing, government can allow other companies to make, use, sell, or import a patented product, without the permission of the patent owner. Now, the author further highlights that the Agreement on Trade Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights, or TRIPS, allows for compulsory licensing of drugs to produce a generic version of a life saving drug required to meet public health challenges. And similarly, the Doha Declaration also outlines the right of national government to compulsory license patents. Now, hopefully, up till here, you've also understood that the author has recommended the use of compulsory licensing, that patented products are not misused, to ensure that patents are not misused through a monopoly by the importation of the patented product, wherein under compulsory licensing, government can allow other companies to make, use, sell, or import a patented product such as life-saving drugs without permission of the patent owner, and wherein the Agreement on Trade Related Aspect of Intellectual Property Rights, or TRIPS, also allows compulsory licensing for drugs for producing generic versions of life saving drugs required to meet public health challenges. And similarly, compulsory licensing by national governments is also allowed by the Doha Declaration. So, if a question is asked in your mains examination, such as highlight the importance of Form 27 under the Patent Rules of 2003 and the working requirement under the Patents Acts of 1970 in protecting public health, and also discuss briefly as to whether the streamlining of the working requirement principle contradict India's international trade obligations. Now, hopefully, you would be able to answer this question to an extent with this explanation given in this section and from the information given in this article.
Now with this, we come to an end in the analysis of today's paper. Now we move on to the question for today.